praiseforwarwear.com.
Hello, everyone. How are you today? My name is Praise for Woolwear, and you know how we do it. I'm super excited to be joining you today. This is my global classroom, and you know what we do on the show. It's about marriage, parenting, and lifestyle. How have you been, and what's been happening with you? You know, when you see this face, it gets you excited, right? Yeah, because I'm the king of excitement. I just love to um, get excited about life. I am the one who opens your mind to possibilities, you know, how we do it. Right. So it's been some time talking about parenting and parenting and parenting. So we're going to take a break today and we're going to be looking at something very critical, you know, because I I've researched intentionally all my life and I've seen people get dust shot against them simply because they don't understand rules of engagement. Now, you know that rules of engagement are very critical to what we do because if you do not understand the key that unlocks a door, you can stand there for the rest of your life. You know, if you like, shout, if you like, scream, if you like, whine, if you like, pray, do anything. Unless you put in the right key, the door remains shut. So today, we are going to be looking at winning in life, the power of relationship rules. Now, a lot of you want to win, and you know, you don't know how to win because many of the things required to win has not been taught. So, people's template for winning would include competence, but you know the competence is not enough because it's been said that relationship skills is what constitute about 65% of getting the job done. That no matter how competent you are, if you can relate effectively, you will still run into trouble. So, if you want to win, there are fundamentals you need to understand. However, you know, many of us have been scripted to self sabotage. So the way you feel about people right now, it's not your problem. It's often the problem of the people that scripted you, which we call the handlers. If you have been following my session, you would have learned about handlers and how the handlers work. Well, I know some of you are just joining, so you can just tell me where you're joining from. Just tell me your name and where you're joining from. Now, winning in life is so critical because many people want to win. And I'll tell you, I run a class called Goal Scoring Masterclass. It's a class I run annually. And every time I audit people's goals for the previous year, I realize that 85% never meet their goals. And in auditing why they couldn't meet their goals, something that has been consistent in all my classes would reveal that many of them it's due to wrong recruitment. Wrong recruitment talks about wrong relationship. So you have people who want to do $1 million, but they don't have at least six people on their list of the closest people to them who do $1 million and above. Now, how are you going to do that numbers if you don't have people who are already at that level? I mean, it's a simple law of vibration and energy. And what the law says is that, you know, if you're vibrating at the level of a billion and you're surrounded by people making millions, they will drain you, suck you, and very soon you'll be back to the level of millions. But that if you're vibrating at the level of thousands and you are surrounded by people who are doing billions, they will intimidate you, they will stretch your mind. It's only a matter of time you vibrate at a higher level. Now, many people want to succeed, but you know what they do? They are like that team that want to win the Champions League or the team that wants to win the World Cup. World Cup is on in Qatar, right? They want to win the World Cup, but guess what they do? They go to their village and recruit players and they put the jersey of Brazil on them and they take them to the tournament. Of course, you know the result that's going to happen. They're going to lose woefully. And that's the way many of us have been scripted to process life. Now, I have a picture in front of me. Now, on that picture, you have different groups of people. Now, I want you to take a look at this picture and tell me what comes to your mind. I mean, you can pick any of the picture randomly and tell me what comes to your mind. Okay. So you can put out in the chat box and let me see what you have. Now, I'm sure some of you are going to look at it and say, oh, you know, you can see something that look like voodooism. You can see something that look like, you know, the celestial people. You can see someone will look at another lady and say prostitute. The question I would love to ask is, how did you come to this conclusion when you have never met these people. You couldn't even know whether they were acting a movie or what they were doing exactly. So consistently, we have been scripted to judge what we do not understand. We've been scripted to almost annihilate, people who look differently from us. I have said to people that there is a terrorist in almost all of us. The moment you belong to a sect or to a group that believes that they are the only ones who are entitled to certain things, and that everyone who doesn't, who is not in line, in sync with what they believe, is headed somewhere disastrous, and the life is going to treat them badly. That is already terrorism, because the terrorism is built on superior beliefs that says it's either our belief or no other belief. And that is the way many of us are. So you find yourself as a Christian, you walk into a Muslim park, and something tells you that, they need to get saved and things like that. And you're not asking, are they actually lost? Right? And the same thing the Muslim looks at. I mean, I was reading about a country, I think Indonesia, that says that anybody who converts someone to an unbeliever, wherein an unbeliever is someone who is a Christian, because the Muslim nation, will be jailed. And that anybody who engages in premarital sex will be jailed as well. Now, so you have a group of people who are looking for a uniform world when the world is actually a diverse world. So consistently, you find the Christian vilify the Muslim, you find the Muslim vilify the Buddhist vilifies the Shinto, and even within ourselves, we look down on the people, traditional worshippers. And even when it comes to racial, the Africans will look down on, I mean, the sub-African, if there's anything like that. You have the whites will look down on the Hispanics, and you go on and on and on and on. Then you look at the rich will look down on the poor, the middle class will look down on the poor class. So consistently, we just keep looking down on ourselves and destroying ourselves. So in a place that we should collaborate, we compete and we put ourselves down. Now, the moment you look at something that doesn't correspond with your known worldview, and that is not in line with your truth, and you are not willing to fact find or check, or at least give them a benefit of doubt with a view to learning something new, then you are a terrorist in disguise, because it's only a matter of time. If you have the capacity, you could kill. So you see the way people talk about people whose sexuality differ from them, and the people they will talk about people's religion is not their religion, then you know that these people have the capacity to kill. Now, I put to you today, because at the end of this session, you are going to be very, very effective. If you master what I'm going to start teaching today, you will be very effective everywhere you go. And you will realize that what comes to you in form of ideas and what comes to you in form of financing will be totally, totally different. Now, the only tribe that exists is tribe humanity. You see, the concept of religion, the concept of race is man-made. We all came here without labels, right? When we don't master how to relate with people, we will judge them on the basis of their tribe and race, or our prejudice, which will ultimately affect our capacity to connect and enjoy the beauty of their relationship. So, you're praying to God, God bless me, bless me, bless me. You're a Christian. Then God sends a sheikh to you to answer that prayer. You are not likely going to receive the answers. The tragedy of life is not that people don't pray. The tragedy is that people pray and their answers show, but they lack the capacity to recognize their answer. So the sheikh comes, instead of transacting business with the sheikh, the guy is going to look at him and say, oh, this guy is an unbeliever, and he's going to be trying to save him by imposing his worldview, and that's going to piss him off. The guy's going to go away. You wouldn't know that was the guy God has sent to give answers to your prayers. Why? Because we have not passed the first test of relationship rules. Relationship rules help you understand the keys you need to unlock every door. It's been said that there are 3 doors away from the rest of the world. There is an Ojo, Unos, an Adamu, Unos, a Choma, who is your key to the rest of the world. That no matter who you want to see, no matter who you want to meet, I can almost check your network to know where you're headed. I was having a conversation with one of my mentors this morning who said, oh, life has been very tough for him. And I said to him, that you are solving problems, but you're solving problems at a lower level for the wrong audience. So I said to him, if I audit your life and I look at the relationships and the networks you have, it will give me a feedback on who you have become and why you're earning what you're earning. That if you change your network, it will change the quality of the people you're solving problems for, and it will change your earnings. Now, too many people have lost out from the best of relationships because they don't seem to understand the rules of engagement that can keep everyone glued to you and give their all to you. Now, relationship is vital to all we do, but without mastering the rules, we will consistently lose out. Now, what I believe about life is consistent, right? However, I am humble enough to know that there are people who believe differently, and they are not subhuman or inhuman, or they're not lesser human for believing what they believe. Because if many of us have been born the way they've been born, gone through what they've gone through, we would have been behaving like them. So the four vital keys that I've discovered over time are acceptance, respect, understanding, and love. Today, I'm just going to dwell on acceptance. Now, the law of acceptance says that we are not qualified to influence others if we're unwilling to accept their personhood, right? Accepting people is not the same thing as accepting their ways or their worldview, but recognizing that they're man made in God's image, which helps us to engage, influence, and get the best out of them. You know, in systems intelligence, we say that the most flexible man controls everyone. Where I come from the Yoruba speaking tribe of Nigeria, they say that an elder who never gets angry will have a lot of children. What this simply means is, if you are the person who never judges other people, who is willing to engage, who is willing to accept people as man made in God's image, then you stand a higher chance of having access to what others can only dream of. So when you see people, when you go out, what do you see? What I see, I mean, I look at people, and sometimes people think that I'm being sarcastic, or they think I'm just downplaying things. So, for example, they showed me a man, and a masquerade, and they said, "Praise, what can you see?" And I said, "I can see a bogusly dressed human being, right, whose clothing and apparel is very bogus and maybe traditional." Now, someone else will look at that same image and see an evil spirit. Now, you know how you see is superior to what you see. Because if your the filters through which you process reality is faulty, then you are going to be putting people in different silos, in different places. And at the end of the day, you will not benefit from that. So when someone from Dubai shows up on your radar, you're going to see a Muslim, you're not going to see a human being. When someone, who is from China comes in, you're going to see a Chinese, you're not going to see a human being. I always tell people, as long as you can see two eyes, two ears, one nose, one mouth, and two hands, two legs, or even no leg, as long as the person looks like you, then you need to know that they are a reflection of you. And that's why I love the concept in Africa that is called Ubuntu, which says, I am because you are. You want to attract people, you want to influence the entire world, you need to know that you cannot influence them unless you are willing to accept their person. Have you ever thought of how God behaves, that every of God's product is meant for human being, is universally accessible to all, including people who don't believe that God exists? So you look at the sun, the moon, the star, the air, and what of you, everything is accessible to human being. If God were to be what we think he is, and in our smallness of mind, then God will make it rain on the house of the Christians and, stop the Muslims from enjoying the same room, to prove that they don't belong to him. We thought is the God of all flesh, but we do not believe is the God of all flesh. And so we think of a God who is very small, who cannot activate any of his creature in your direction. Yet we say he made the heavens and the earth, he made every human being on this planet, but we do not believe that he can activate or call on or touch anyone that he has made. I mean, it's very laughable the way we process reality. So in the law of acceptance, you will not have a transgenerational influence, and your influence will not spread unless you have the capacity to be able to accept everyone, and everyone can have access to what comes out of you. Look at all the richest men in the world. They all have one thing in common. They are all selling a product that is accessible to everyone, regardless of their name, their tribe, their creed, their sexuality, or what have you. Now, those are the men whose innovation align with the way God behaves and the way God processes things. So if God sends rain, he sends rain to everyone. If Mark Zuckerberg sends Facebook, Everyone is able to use it. Elon Musk, everyone is able to drive Tesla. But you are trying to create a product that is just meant for a small sect. So what is happening is you have excluded some of God's people from what God is able to do through you to them. Now, the law of acceptance says everything we've come to accept about people is often man-made, and this man-made differentiation has hurt us so much more than it has helped us. So cast your mind back to when you were a child. Go back today to your primary school or your elementary school. Think of all your friends. Think of the plays that you played with them. As you played with them, did you talk about what religion, what race, what tribe, what gender? Why? Because all that matters was play. You only were there to play, and you played to the fullest. You didn't think of anyone being demonic. You didn't think of anyone being a threat to you. You didn't even know the differences between all of you because you were children and you wanted to play. And that is why if you put 10 children whose purity has not been compromised from 10 different tribes, races, or religion with different worldview together in a room, what you will see is the beauty of humanity because they will create place for themselves and play together. Our world is a world that needs people who can make love, not people who can war. We have created all kinds of needless war simply because of our unwillingness to accept that even though we all have different ideologies, we all came out of God because He's the maker of heaven and the earth. So too many people have lost out from the benefits we could have derived from others because of their unconscious bias. Many of those unconscious bias were installed before you were born. And that's why I always say to people, I was flying from America to London one day, and suddenly there was an emergency in the plane. And what happened? There was a guy who passed out. And so they began to ask for medics, in the plane. And something that was unplanned for, but I noticed, showed up. There was a Muslim doctor with a Muslim doctor with a Buddhist doctor, and the third person was a Shinto or something like that. Then there was a pastor on the plane. The three medics were were treating the guy and trying to resuscitate him. The pastor was praying. It was too graphic. I looked at it and I enjoyed the beauty of humanity. That if we do not understand how similar we are and we stop judging people on the basis of their race, on the basis of their tribe, on the basis of their religion, we will lose out on the power of collaboration. At the end of the day, we will get into needless war when none of us is going to be here for 300 years. Maximum, we all have like 100 years to live. Maybe some of us have lived half of those years or 40% of those years. How would you now live the rest of your life fighting needless wars that you knew nothing about? I say to people, when Jesus was here, none of us was born. When Prophet Muhammad was here, none of us was here. When what's his name now? Buddha was here, none of us was here. So how do we fight wars on behalf of people that we do not even know what happened when we were not born? Why would you carry over wars that you knew nothing about and begin to fight your brothers when it's actually cheaper and easier to collaborate? Now, I'm not advocating for a sole religion. I'm saying we can have a diverse opinion and diverse doctrines and diverse beliefs depending on the book we are reading, but at the same time, learn how to relate as tribe humanity and be useful to ourselves and for humanity. Now, how many times have you heard Muslims are this, Christians are dash, Pentecostals are, Orthodox are? As a matter of fact, even in the Christian world in Nigeria, the moment someone puts on, a white garment, the Pentecostals suddenly feel this person still needs salvation, right? We are not willing to understand diversity and inclusion to know that there are people who, worship God differently from us, and God is able to accept them. Now, if you're a student of the Bible, you'll realize that originally, the dispensation of innocence, men had direct access to God according to the Bible, but God was still at work meeting with them. Then when man moved to the Mosaic laws, and they started making sacrifices, God was still functioning, but there were still people having direct access and angelic visit. When they moved to the kingship order, God was still with them. There were still people worshiping in the temple, and there were still people having direct access. When they moved to the prophetic direction, there were still people who believed in prophetic, and God was working through them. The king still existed. the people burning incense in the temple still existed, and there were still people having angelic visit. That's to tell you that even in the Bible, there are diversities. In fact, it talks about the diversity of spirit. But the moment a spirit does not align with our known world, we fight it and we lose out. And I always say to people, and pardon me, think with me for a moment. If there was a guy in Los Angeles or a guy in Lagos, Nigeria, depending on where you're joining, or Ghana, Accra, Ghana, who is known to open the eyes of the blind. But what he does to open the eyes of the blind is this guy does not pray. He just mixes his saliva with sand, makes it in paste, slaps it on their, pastes it on their face, and takes them to the pool to go bathe, right? That guy, by what power would you, suspend your brain, by what power would you say that guy is doing what he's doing? Of course, you will say the power of the devil, because he's not praying in Jesus' name, he's not doing many of the things you have been taught to believe. But guess what? That was what Jesus was doing in the temple. So it means that if Jesus were to live in our days and time, you may not follow him. So you hear Africans are this. So people believe Africans are unintelligent. Some people believe all white, but I've seen white fools, I've seen black fools. There is foolishness in every race, foolishness in every religion, stupidity in every religion, stupidity in every race. There is love in every religion, love in every race. You see, but you know the sad thing, none of us can survive a bomb blast to prove that we are superior to each other. If there's a bomb blast right now, the bomb does not separate Christian from Muslim. It does not separate Muslim from Hindus. So why do we fight? Now, when you master the first law of relationship, now, that doesn't say you get married to everyone, or no. It's just you are accepting them on the premise or the integrity of their humanity. When we master how to accept people as human beings, we will receive them the same way we receive the most important people in our lives, and our reception of them will determine how we treat them. So what we say is your people perception will determine your people reception, and it will ultimately determine your people engagement. That is why I believe that we all need to learn to respect people. We'll get to that, which is the third rule, right? Because if many of us are respecters of person, and respect for people means you treat them, with the highest regard and honor, regardless of who you think they are. That's why they say that an accused person is presumed innocent until found guilty. I love this verse. When God was speaking to Abraham, and he says, through you, all the families of the earth will be blessed. The question is, how can God bless all the families of the earth through you when your heart cannot accommodate all? And all families are all families, including straight, gay, whatever, Shinto, Buddhist, all families are families. God is not going to distinguish all of this. That is why many of us, the innovation available to us is too weak, because God knows the state of your heart. If you were the one that was giving Facebook, you may not allow other people who don't belong to your faith have access to it, because in your worldview, they don't deserve it, right? So you will give them a condition to say, if you don't mention or pray this kind of prayer or say these things after me, you will not have access, all right? So you use it as a criteria to recruit them into something. Now, that is why oftentimes you notice that the people who have the highest innovation in the world, they are oftentimes people who say they don't believe anything, right? I don't think they don't believe anything. It's just that I think they serve an unknown God, that they can feel him, they can, express him fully, but they have not come to accept him based on what people have taught over time. The question today is, can God entrust you with the solutions for the families of the earth when you are willing to accept all? What is the state of your heart? When you see people tomorrow, what are you going to see? How are you going to engage? How are you going to relate with them? Let me tell you, I promise you, if you master this first rule, you'll begin to win, because then God knows that you're ready. Then he will begin to point to you innovation and solution that can serve humanity. So what are the things you need to do? Number one, accept people strictly from the standpoint of humanity, right? Anything you see outside of humanity is likely going to close doors against you, right? Find the right narrative that promotes your wellness. So I found a lady who is inappropriately dressed according to people. What I'm going to see, I'm going to make a narrative of someone maybe found herself in a rape situation and she managed to escape with that kind of cloth, right? Because there is value in every human being you meet. So accept people from the standpoint of humanity, right? See them as man made in God's image. How do you see your house help, your housemaid, your driver, your domestic servant? How do you see people in Afghanistan? How do you see all the people around you, northern part of Nigeria, for those of you in Nigeria? How do you see the North Africans? How do you see, you see the World Cup right now, everyone is cheering. We've forgotten all our archers, everyone, because the whole world is coming together. But guess what? After the World Cup, we go back to the problem. Number two, predetermine the response you want from people after every encounter with you. It's called the power of signal. When you mention Tiger Woods, what comes to your mind? Golf. When you mention, TD Jakes, what comes to your mind? Preaching. When you mention Serena Williams, what comes to your mind? Lawn tennis, right? When you mention Lionel Messi, it's football. Now you can actually predetermine the response you want. So every time people walk into your life, what is that word that you are intentionally sending as a signal? Because right signal plus reach plus consistency will equal quality subscribers base. So imagine if you have chosen a word that says Temi is sweet, right? Let's assume that's the word you have chosen as your signal. Now, you know what's going to happen? Every time people come around you, you want to be faithful, to be loyal to that word. And that by the time you meet them the next time, you say, if you have one word to describe your experience of me, what will it be? They will say, Temi is sweet. That's how you know. So when people say you can't determine what people say about you, it's not totally correct. It depends on the intentionality of your signal. Number three, seek to learn something from them that you may not have known before. It's called get curious. You cannot be their teacher without first of all becoming their student. We say that you cannot influence what you are willing to accept, right? To influence anyone, any group, including Gen Zs, including your children, you must first accept them. They must feel comfortable with you. They must think you are in alignment with them. Then you can now begin to influence. Number four, be open-minded to accept them, even if you may not totally accept their worldview or behavior. We are not saying accept their ways. We are not saying accept their thoughts. We are not saying accept their conclusion, but we are saying accept their person, accept their humanity. We can disagree to agree. And two people can see two things differently, and both of them are correct. Number five, recognize that you could have been exactly like them if you were raised in the circumstances that produced them. You need to know that, right? If you were born in China, what would your name have been? What name would you have answered? What religion would you have belonged to? Just think about it, right? What would you have believed about life? If you were born in Saudi Arabia, to the king of Saudi, what religion would you have practiced? Automatically Islam, right? If I come to you and I say, you are going to hell, you're likely going to cut off my head because that's a direct insult on what you have known. So we need to understand that people are products of their environment. And even some of us, when we see that there's nothing wrong with them, they're fine, their marriage is fine, their life is fine, they have money, they are not sick, we are still trying to look for something that doesn't exist. Can we recognize that even the people we call inappropriately behaved people, if you have been through their experience, through their pain, through what they have been through, you may have been acting like them. And that is why what hooks humanity together is love. And love is built on empathy, that you cannot really understand people unless you step into their model of the world to see things through their lens. They are not wicked. They are acting to type and product of their scripting. Number six, create a perceptual code that determines your perception, reception, and engagement. What that means is from tomorrow, every human being I meet is dash. What will that dash be? If that dash is every human being I meet is a royalty, it will determine how you see them, it will determine how you receive them, and it will determine how you engage them. My mother used to say to me, there is nothing to lose for treating people, there's nothing to lose for treating people well, but there's a lot to lose for treating them badly. So if from tomorrow you create your perceptual code to say every human being I've seen, no matter who they are, whether they're my employees or my employers, whether they are the people who have hurt me the most, or whatever it is, if you say every human being is a royalty, how would you greet royalties? How would you correct royalties? How would you handle royalties? It changes the dynamics. And if you are someone who accepts a lot of people, you will get a lot of mileage because a lot of people will come to you. They will come with information because you do not discriminate. And you know the interesting thing, even when angels show up, you will accord them the best form of respect, because what many of us try to do is, when we see the rich and the mighty, you want to treat them well. When you see the downtrodden, you want to treat them badly. What if God is the one who is downtrodden, right? And you treat him badly? After all, he said, I was in prison, you did not visit me. What does that mean? Because everything you've been taught about him, he couldn't have been in prison. He couldn't have been a criminal. But he said, I was in prison. He said, as long as you do it for my people, you have done it for me. So if you learn to accept people, regardless of how they look, and give them the best treatment that speaks to their humanity, you stand a better chance of gaining everything you want in your life. And lastly, give them the best experience they could have had in their lifetime. You may be the last hope of giving someone a direction in life. You may be, we say it in our organization all the time, that we have lost the right to withhold the power of mercy. So sometimes I want to run a class, people can afford it. Some people reach out to me, I look for how to help. If they can't attend that particular class, I find another lesser class that is free that they can attend, right? So we must not withhold the bowel of mercy, because you do not know what you are giving or what you're receiving an award from by treating people right. So if you can accept people, you can become anything you can become, and you can influence at a higher level everywhere you go. Now, I want to invite you before I go to a class that changed my life many years ago, right? I was in church. It was December 31st. I was lifting my goals to pray. Then it dawned on me that the previous 5 years, I never achieved my goals, yet I moved on. Then I began to ask, why couldn't I achieve my goal? And I went to look for people who have achieved their goals. And guess what I found? I found the things never taught in any goal scoring classes. You do vision board, and all those things are very good. But the techniques, nobody talks about the goal scoring. Everybody talks about the goal setting. But there's a goal scorer, which is the you, right? The patterns that stopped you last year, 5 years ago, is waiting to stop you next year. So what we do in this class is we help you audit your life. Then we help you create your life. Then you set goals around your life. It's a radical approach that will help you consistently meet your target. If you're in North America, I'm going to be spending 4 days from the 26th to the 29th of December. You don't want to miss that. For anything, you can use the link to sign up. If you are in Africa or you are in UK and Europe, your own class is in January 2nd and 3rd, right? But if you can wake up in the middle of the night, and join the North American class, that will be helpful for you as well. Trust me, this will totally transform your life. 2023 is going to be first of the best years of your life, and you don't want to miss it for anything. So let's go ahead, accept people. Yes, they hurt you. Accept their person. You don't have to accept their behavior. Separate the person from their behavior. If we learn to accept, doors will open. Then you will not see humanity as Muslim, Christian, Hindus, Buddhists, white, black, no. You would see man made in God's image. And if that is your default engagement code, you will collaborate with all of God's people to become the best they can ever be. I hope this has been really, really, really helpful for you today. Thank you very much for everyone who has joined. Gloria from Germany, Bokola from Nigeria, Unizim from New Zealand. Unizim, thank you for always joining my class. Jennifer Almond from Ghana, thank you very much. Fred Mankind from Texas, I really, really appreciate you all. And I hope to see you next week when I come your way again. Please go ahead, sign up for the class. I look forward to welcoming you to that class. It's cheap enough, but in 4 days, every evening from 26 to 29, I'm going to be unlocking the door on how to create the life of your dream and how to set a goal that inspires you and that you have the capacity, the templates to achieve. You don't want to miss that for anything. I look forward to seeing you. Have a fantastic, and please share this with people. Let them listen to it. Next week, I'll come with the second rule that you need to master. Then upper week, third rule. Then I'll take one more rule for the year, and that will be it. I hope this has really made. There are lots of videos on my YouTube page. Please subscribe and share with your people. A lot of resources just meant for you. Thank you for those of you who are just joining us. Please, you can play this over and over again. Till then, keep loving, keep believing, and please learn to accept people so that you can win all the time. I know that you will win with every relationship everywhere you go. Have a fantastic evening. Bye-bye.